Good evening. It is so great to be here. I am a lifelong Republican, and I am also one of the 2 endorsed candidates for the Superior Court. It's been an honor and privilege to be campaigning this entire time for our party, to represent our state party, and to share our message across the Commonwealth. Some of you may not know, but I have roots here in your county. Does anyone know Carmen Molinaro? Show of hands. He's my second cousin. I'm related to all the Molinaros. My mother, lives in your county. She worked for the Redevelopment Authority for over 30 years here in Uniontown, Claire Macco. So I understand the issues that are before all of you in your county, and I've been speaking to your commissioners and trying to understand a little bit more, because what we have here are 3 courts that are very important to all of you for one reason or another. Megan shared with you about the Commonwealth Court. It's truly the people's court. It's a person against an agency. Where the Superior Court is different. You have a candidate here in the room who's running for the Court of Common Pleas. That individual deals with civil matters and criminal matters for the majority of those cases. Those cases, if appealed, would go to the Superior Court, the court for which I've been endorsed by the state party. If you have a loved one who is involved with an issue related to a divorce, custody, adoption, any of those family matters, if they're appealed, they go to the Superior Court. If you know someone who has been incarcerated or has been sentenced, and you believe that something wasn't quite right, or you're not sure of how the jury made those decisions, or if the jury instruction wasn't appropriate before that decision was made by the jury, or if it was a bench trial made by the judge, those decisions, if appealed properly, would go to the Superior Court. Like Megan, I have a very unique background. My background also spans over 30 years, because we're about the same age. I started out in private practice in northwestern Pennsylvania. And then when I wanted to open my office, guess who I called? Carmen Molinaro. And I came down to Fayette County for about a month to learn how he was running his office as an attorney, as a sole practitioner. And then I opened my own office in Clarion County. Ultimately, I merged it with another firm when I had my 2 young sons in the 90s. I was also an assistant district attorney in 2 counties. Why is that important? Because I was dealing with criminal matters on a daily basis. Approximately 70% of the cases that go to the Superior Court are criminal in nature. So I was assistant district attorney in Venango County, which is a neighboring county to Clarion County, as well as in Franklin County, which is a busier county in terms of the types of cases and the number of attorneys that are involved in the district attorney's office. As was just also shared with you, I worked under Governor Tom Corbett. Why is that important in a role as a sitting judge on the Superior Court? I handle cases for both the Department of Health and the Department of State. The one that's most important as it relates to the Superior Court is what I did as a hearing examiner. I heard cases just like a judge would in your Court of Common Pleas, but they were administrative in nature. Parties appeared before me. I heard the witnesses, I evaluated the evidence and the credibility of those witnesses, and I issued hundreds of decisions. Those decisions impact all of you and your lives. If those decisions were appealed, they would actually go to the Commonwealth Court, the one that Megan is our endorsed candidate. But the skills that were required of me to be a hearing examiner, issuing hundreds of decisions, are the same skills that are necessary as a sitting judge on the Superior Court. There is no original jurisdiction for the Superior Court. What that means is I never get to see the witnesses. I never get to hear the testimony. A case would go to the Superior Court if it is properly appealed, and I would be reviewing the transcript and the record from below. So all of the skills that I had as a hearing examiner are the same ones that are required of me to evaluate all the evidence, the transcript, and make an assessment whether the issue that was properly before the Superior Court, and address that with the other judges sitting with me. The Commonwealth Court is also different because it has original jurisdiction. So you will have cases, and I believe one of your commissioners was sharing with me that he was a witness before Judge Renee Conjubalier. There are times when the Commonwealth Court, you can hear testimony of certain cases. A lot of them are usually dealing with school funding or election law cases, but in instances where you were a witness, it was also an election case. So those are unique issues that are for the Commonwealth Court as well as the Superior Court. I've also served in capacities dealing with policy and regulatory matters. When I was counsel in the Department of Health, I was overseeing all the licensing of home care, home health care, hospices, birth centers, and the Drug Device and Cosmetic Act. When you're a district attorney or an assistant DA or a first assistant, or you are a chief public defender or another one of the attorneys in the public defender's office, you're dealing with that drug act. When you're evaluating the types of crimes, and a lot of the cases that you see in the district attorney's office are related to drugs. I handled those types of cases dealing with the scheduling and rescheduling of drugs. And if there were issues with dealers or manufacturers of drugs, those cases also came before me as counsel in the Department of Health, and I worked with joint jurisdiction with the Office of Attorney General's office. And I also protected the elderly with issues with consumer protection relating to hearing aids and other things to make sure that they were not abused by some hearing aid fitter or audiologist. How many here in this room have children or grandchildren that ride a school bus? I wrote an argument in 2018 to help save the industry, the school bus industry. I presented it in Washington so that if you have a fleet of buses, that's 100 buses, and say only 2 go across state lines for a band event or a cheerleading event or a athletic event, you were being charged for all 100 school buses, even if only 2 went across state lines for the interstate commerce rules. I wrote the argument, and I got a unanimous vote in Washington to save your school bus industry. There were school bus companies across this, not just in Pennsylvania, but across our nation that would be charged $40, $50, $60, $70, $100,000 a year, depending on how many school buses they had. That unanimous vote saved all of the school bus industry over $3 million a year from 2019 on, so that the only school buses that are now charged a UCR fees for interstate commerce are those 1 or 2 or 3 school buses that go across state lines. I've evaluated and studied the law for years, not only in civil law, criminal law, but administrative law. I've been very successful in my career as an attorney, as a prosecutor, and as a hearing examiner. I have the skills that are necessary, and I certainly appreciate your support. Let me tell you a little bit about my background as well. I've been a lifelong Republican. I was involved in the party as a young Republican in college. I was the vice chair of my party in my county. I was on state committee like a few of you here in this room. And I also tried to protect the interests of our statewide candidates and even local candidates when it related to election law issues on election day. I would go to Harrisburg, or I would be the attorney assigned in Clarion County to address those issues to protect our rights and our freedoms and our candidates on the Republican ticket. I've been involved in the party for so very long that no one can question where my philosophies are as it relates to our party. Like Megan, I also hold a carry permit. I have 2 handguns, my children hunt, and I've been very supportive of the Second Amendment. I formerly ran for district attorney, so you can certainly look out there about what my issues were when I was running for district attorney. There's even a video out there if you wanted to see my positions and my experiences when I ran for district attorney. We have 4 great candidates, as Megan indicated. It's truly one team, one fight. It's not one candidate and forget the other 3. We are a team. There's a synergy out there that I haven't seen for a very long time. It's great that all 4 of us work so well together. We support each other. And while I have family here in Fayette County, and I have roots here for many, many years, I consider Megan family, I consider Judge Smale family, I consider Carolyn Carluccio family, and I ask that you consider all of them when you're going to the ballot on May 16th and in November. And please remember that Megan and Carolyn both have opposition in the May primary. So you will see another Republican candidate on the ballot. I'm asking you to consider supporting all 4 of the endorsed Republican candidates in May. Megan needs your help. She needs your voice. Carolyn needs your help. She needs your voice to spread the word of all 4 of us. Carolyn Carluccio, let me just share a little bit about her because she's not here to speak for you. She was a federal prosecutor for a number of years. She was also a chief public defender in Montgomery County. So she's seen both sides as it relates to criminal matters and issues dealing with various types of crime. She was also solicitor for Montgomery County, and most recently she's been a sitting judge for over a decade, and she's the first female to be the president judge in Montgomery County. She's amazing. I wish she was here that you could meet her yourself. She has a stellar career. We are proud to have her at the top of our ticket, but she also needs your help. And I believe that Judge Smale did speak to you in January at one of your meetings. He's amazing as well. Some of you may not know, I don't know if you were all here when he came to speak to you in January. He put himself through school, in law school at night at Duquesne, while he was a probation and parole officer in Westmoreland County. He understands what it also means to work hard. All 4 of us have established over the last 30+ years our career to the extent that the party has been willing to endorse us to represent our entire state. And I humbly ask you for your support, not only for me, but for the other 3 candidates. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you, Maria. Thank you. We had 2 great candidates here tonight. I know it's a matter of not the people in here voting, it's a matter of getting those in our circles of influence out there to vote. So we got to make sure we do that. They're running as a team, and the importance of voting for conservative judges. The next person I want to ask to speak is we have
family, hard work, and reverence for our Constitution, and I hold a conservative judicial philosophy that each and every one of you can trust. My parents instilled my values in me, and they are who I am at my core. My mom was incredibly devout and faith-filled, and she passed on her love of the Lord and love of family to me. I have an amazing family that I'm very blessed with. My husband Scott, and we've got 3 great kids. The youngest is 17, the oldest is 21. So this is the perfect time in their lives for me to embark on a statewide judicial race. For any dog lovers out there, we also have a 2-year-old pony-sized Bernie Doodle who's part of our family as well. I always have to include him. I get my work ethic from my dad. My dad is 91 years old, and God love him, he is still with us and doing great. He has been working since he was 8 years old, and literally just stopped working a few years ago. My dad is a child of the Great Depression, the son of Italian immigrants, and so when my dad was 8, my grandfather, my papa, his dad, lost his business. So my dad went to work when he was 8 to help feed the family. And I don't know about you, but I can hardly wrap my brain around that. Certainly my children really struggle with that as well. So my dad learned an incredibly tough life lesson at an incredibly tender young age, and he learned the value of $1, and he imparted all of that to me. My dad has a tireless, relentless work ethic, and so do I. I apply it to every aspect of my life. I'm applying it to this campaign, and God willing, I get elected in November, I will certainly apply it to my time on the bench. In terms of a little bit more about my family, I'll tell you, because I think it's important for you to know who I am. I support the Second Amendment. I have a concealed carry permit. So does my husband. We have taught our children the importance of safely handling firearms. My father-in-law is a Navy veteran, and he was an NRA instructor. My husband grew up in Ohio, but please don't hold that against me. And he was hunter safety certified when he was 8 years old. The law's a little different there. So it's a way of life in our home and in our family, and I think it's important for you all to know that about me. What kind of judge will I be? I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we need judges who are fair and impartial and independent. We need judges who will defend the rule of law and protect our constitutional rights and freedoms. We need judges who will apply the law as it was written by our General Assembly. And finally, with regard to Commonwealth Court, we need judges who are not afraid to hold our government accountable. Because just as you and I have to follow the law, so too does our government. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be that judge. So please remember that about me. In terms of my second point, what I'd like you to know tonight and to remember is that I am hands down the best candidate for Commonwealth Court because I bring to the Commonwealth Court a nearly 30-year career of service that has given me truly unmatched and comprehensive and one-of-a-kind experience in government law and process that I alone can bring to our Commonwealth Court. And this is so very important because the Commonwealth Court is a court that only hears government cases. Commonwealth Court, I like to say, is the court that is connected to the basic necessities of the lives of every single person all across our great Commonwealth. And most people don't even realize it. When you get up in the morning and you turn on your lights or you turn on your faucet, that's the Commonwealth Court because Commonwealth Court hears utility cases. When you take your kids or your grandkids to school, that's the Commonwealth Court because Commonwealth Court hears education cases. When you cast your vote, that's the Commonwealth Court because the Commonwealth Court hears election cases. The Commonwealth Court hears constitutional issues. If you own a business, if you own a farm, if you have a zoning issue, those are all the issues that come before the Commonwealth Court. And they are all issues, with which I have the most familiarity given my 30-year career of service. I have spent 3 decades learning government, and I've done it through a very unique and wonderful career path. I'm the only attorney I know who has served in all 3 branches of our state government. I have served 1 judge, I've served in the administrations of 2 of our governors, I've served 3 lieutenant governors, and 91 state senators. But that's not all. I also was honored to serve as an attorney for our United States Navy. So at the Navy, I was both a litigator and a transactional attorney, serving all those men and women who so selflessly serve each and every one of us. It was truly my honor and my pleasure doing all that work at the Navy. But that's not all. In addition to that, for the last 10.5 years, I was a legislative attorney through my service as the parliamentarian at the Pennsylvania State Senate. I am the first woman to ever have that job in the history of the Senate, but much more importantly than that, I would say, is it is a job where every day I had to act like a judge. I had to fairly and impartially and in a nonpartisan manner manage the legislative process for the Senate. I always kept our Constitution and our laws and the rules of the Senate as my North Star. So I've got a 10-year proven track record of acting fairly and judiciously that I can bring to our Commonwealth Court. Additionally, I was literally in the room where all of our laws were debated and discussed and considered for more than a decade. As you can imagine, that has given me an incredibly deep insight into the legislative process that I alone will bring to the Commonwealth Court. I will also say this of my service at the Senate, and I don't believe it's reflected in the materials I gave you, but I also had the honor of being the guest chaplain at the Senate. So during COVID, when we couldn't bring guests into the chamber, the senators asked me to be the chaplain. And so I can tell you it was really one of the most special experiences I had at the Senate, always looking through my Bible each and every session day, trying to find just the right passage and just the right message to deliver for the members or for anybody else who was listening. And then finally, what I will say about my service as the parliamentarian is this. After being a parliamentarian for more than 10 years, I know who writes our laws, and it is not the judges. And I will bring that critically important mindset to the Commonwealth Court as well. So please remember, ladies and gentlemen, that I know government. I know the legal issues, I know the legislative issues, I know the regulatory issues, I know the policy issues, and I know the operational issues. And I will bring 3 decades worth of that knowledge to our Commonwealth Court, which, oh, by the way, is only 50 years old. Our Commonwealth Court is a very young court here in Pennsylvania. So it's 50 years old. To give you some context, our Pennsylvania Supreme Court is older than the United States Supreme Court. So I have a 30-year body of work that I can bring to a court that's only 50 years old. So I think that my experience truly is unmatched. I was endorsed by the party with 76% of the vote. I was recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association because of my fine credentials. So please remember that. And then my third point that I would like to leave you with tonight, and please remember the phrase, ladies and gentlemen, I am your November candidate. We as a party must choose candidates who can finish the race and win in November. It is a very hollow victory to only win in May. Well, I have no doubt that I am your November candidate. I've got a winning message, I have a winning team, I have a winning strategy, I have a winning approach to this entire election. I'm so committed to this that I quit my job at the Senate at the end of November to make running for Commonwealth Court my full-time job. I did that because I think it's that important of a position, it's that important to the people, and it's personally that important to me. It's something that I've been considering doing for several years now, so I am all in. I'm running a 67-county campaign. Tonight makes county number 45, so we are making great progress. I believe it's important for the people of Pennsylvania to see that I care enough to come into their communities and earn their votes, and that is what I'm doing. So I have a boots-on-the-ground approach, and I'm really proud of that. I would also say that not only I am your November candidate, but I would also say, there are 3 other individuals who have been endorsed by the party for Superior Court and the Supreme Court. One of whom is here tonight, Maria Batista. Carolyn Carluccio was endorsed for the Supreme Court, and Harry Smale was also endorsed for Superior Court with 2 vacancies on that court. They are also your November candidates. And what I would say tonight is this: we have a wonderful, rare, and precious opportunity to elect 4 conservative principal judges onto our statewide appellate courts this year. I do not want to lose one of those seats. We need to go 4 for 4. So I humbly ask for your support on May 16th. Please follow me on the socials, Megan Martin for PA. I'm happy to answer any questions if that's permitted. If not, send me an email and I can answer your questions that way, or give me a call. But it's truly a delight to be here. I love coming out. My most favorite aspect of this whole campaign has been getting out and talking to the people of Pennsylvania. So I really welcome this opportunity, and I thank you all so very much, and have a wonderful evening. God bless.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nate Naval. I'm Chief of Staff for Congressman Guy Reschenthaler. I've been a long-time visitor here at your meeting, so thank you for another invitation to come tonight and give an update. Greetings from Guy. He sends his best from Washington. He also sends his thank you because he wants you all to know that he appreciates that you all have his back up here while he is down there doing the work in Washington that you've all elected him to do. This term in Congress, it's now the 118th Congress. The Republicans have taken the House back, as you've known. We made a commitment to America back during the election. As some of you maybe had attended that meeting where the congressman had hosted the entire Republican conference in our district to announce that commitment to America. And now that we've taken back the House, we are going to be in the first 100 days of that Congress. We're going to be laying out some aggressive measures that we all told you about. But Guy is very fortunate. He is in leadership of the House now. He is the House Chief Deputy Whip, which is the number 5 position in the Republican House Conference. So right under Tom Emmer, who is the Whip, he is the one responsible for reaching the members. So each one of the Republican members out there, Guy is in contact with on a regular basis to try and make sure that this agenda is being put forward. Some of the things that we told you about in the commitment to America back in November was 4 basic things that we're going to follow. An economy that is strong, and these are going to be bills that are going to be put up in the next 100 days. An economy that is strong to fight inflation and lower the cost of living, to make America energy independent and reduce gas prices, to strengthen the supply chain and end our dependence on China. Moving to a nation that is safe, number 2, to secure the border and combat illegal immigration, to fully fund effective border enforcement, strategies, infrastructure, and advanced technologies to prevent illegal crossings and traffickers by cartels. We want to defend America's national security with our troops, to invest in efforts for establishing a secret committee on China, and exercise peace through strength for our allies on that global conflict. Number 3 was a future that is built on freedom, to make sure that every student can access and succeed and give parents a voice. to go on and confront big tech and demand fairness with our First Amendment rights. And finally, a government that is accountable to preserve our constitutional freedoms and uphold free speech, to make Washington accountable, and to restore the people's vote by ending the special treatments for members of Congress. One of the things in that conflict that we are doing right now in March, here March 9th, was specifically for that Parents' Bill of Rights. On March 9th, Chief Deputy Whip Guy Rushenthaler joined his colleagues to announce H.R. 5, the Parents' Bill of Rights Act, which delivers on the core tenet of the House Republican majority's commitment to America and upholds the parents' rights to be involved in their children's education. Guy had said, as the son of former teachers, I understand it is a crucial role that parents play in their child's education. Parents are not domestic terrorists, as the left suggests. They are there for their children's fiercest advocates. Their success of our future generations depends on their voice being heard. And so the background on this, Chief Deputy Whip Rushenthaler, along with 100 Republican colleagues or co-sponsors of the Parents' Bill of Rights Act, it includes 5 principles. That parents have the right to know what their children are being taught. Period. That parents have the right to be heard. That parents have the right to see the school budget and the spending. And that parents have the right to protect their children's privacy in school. And finally, parents have the right to keep their children safe. I have a fact sheet on the bill if anybody's interested in learning more about it. But these are the things that Guy is focused on. These are the things that he is working on. And the things that he's able to do because you all are here supporting him back at home. I know a lot of times that we hear, where's Guy? Guy is in Washington. Guy is in Washington where you elected him to be. He's on the House Appropriations Committee, which is the most powerful committee in Congress because the Congress holds the purse strings. So in that role, he has 15 projects that he is going to be moving forward this year. Fayette County is going to be up in line for possibly 3 to 4 of them. That's what you were able to get when you have a member of Congress that sits on that committee that is in leadership. And we work very well with your county commissioners here to make sure that those projects are exactly curtailed for what you need here in Fayette County. Not what PennDOT needs, not what the governor needs, but what Fayette County needs. And so I thank you, gentlemen, that are here tonight that we work with very well as county commissioners. But we're going to keep doing that for Fayette County, bringing that money back here home, because that's where it belongs, and that's where you expect it to be. So thank you again for the time tonight. Any questions that you might have, see me later. I know there's some other things to be discussed tonight, so thanks again for the time.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Let me only say one thing. Just recently, we had a situation in regard to a school teacher, and just the other day in the newspaper it reported that we made a backhand deal to eliminate a hearing. Well, very bluntly, I just wrote a letter this evening to the Herald Standard telling them that it needs corrected. If you're an attorney, you understand that a person who's a defendant can go into a magistrate's office and waive that hearing. We have nothing to do about that. The district attorney's office cannot stop a defendant from going in. And that school teacher went in. There was no change of the hearing, but it's being said that it was. So I want to clarify that. The law allows them to do that. It's not something that I can stop. So I've asked them to retract their statements because it's erroneous. And the Court of Common Pleas judges who've seen that are very upset. The court administrator's office is, and very bluntly, the magistrate that handled the matter last Friday, who was there only for waiving the hearing, waiving her preliminary hearing up to court. She's admitted that we've had a case to go against. Thank you.
Yeah, a little bit. It is obble. It sounds like wobble without the W. So, very briefly, you guys heard from me last time. I am a retired member of the United States Army Reserve. I have a law enforcement background. I'm an experienced trial attorney. We need change in the district attorney's office, and I'm the person to make that change. Thank you.
Next, we have.
Right on. My purpose to run behind this office. One is that I will be the representative of the victims of the crimes. Second thing, I'm developing a program to support these victims' loved ones, next of kin. And the third thing is I want to work on preventative deaths within our county to reduce the amount of deaths that we suffer that are preventative. So please remember me on May 16th. And again, as everyone else said, November, that's our important date as well. So thank you. Have a great night.
Good evening, everyone. This is not the first time I spoke as well as everyone else has. Licensed funeral director for the past 20 plus years. I've been with the coroner's office as a deputy, one of 9 all county deputies for the past 14 years, and feel that I've brought positive change to that office. My background with the funeral home gives me the ability to take care of these families long after we leave the scene. Any support that you can give me in May and November, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think everybody in here knows me. Rob Rhodes. I'm from Brownsville. Anybody else from Brownsville in here? Melinda, raise your hand. All right, Brownsville is well represented tonight. I am running for controller, and I would really appreciate your support this November. God bless everyone.
I'm a candidate for the clerk of courts. I'm a veteran and I'm a former state legislator. I really feel that we, as a team here in Fayette County, can crash this Democrat machine this year and take control of the courthouse. We have good candidates, and one thing I'm really proud of is Maria and Megan running for these 2 court jobs. When I was a legislator, it used to blow my mind. We passed legislation, and the courts and the bureaucrats would act like they wrote the laws and try to enforce them. And it's wrong, and I'm glad to see you 2 take the position that you have, and I hope the whole ticket wins. Thank you very much.
Ken Bork, I'm sorry. I'm running for Register Wills. Thank you.
Good evening, Melinda Delarose. I am the one of the judicial candidates for judge. One of the things that I really like about coming to this meeting is they're so informative. So to hear from these judicial candidates for Commonwealth Court and Superior Court who came to educate us on the why we vote for judges, why it's so important to listen to judicial candidates, and why it's so important that we need the constitutional conservative judicial candidates really is just inspiring and motivating, and I hope you all feel the way that I do, that we want to get out there and vote, and we want to vote that ticket, and we want to vote for the constitutional conservatives who follow the law, who do not make the law, and I agree with both of our judicial candidates here tonight, that's exactly what a judge should do, and that's exactly what I will do as your next common pleas judge. Thank you.
Our other candidate, Mark Mahalo, is not.
I'm running unopposed in the primary. However, the word has been out that my opponent in the general already is saying that he's going to beat me in the primary with a write-in. So anyway, I think that with my fiscal management that I've experienced through running the Uniontown Chiropractic Center, my management with people, I mean, at one time I had 17 employees. I think that my drive, my background, I think that I can do a lot better for the people of South Union Township. I will tell you very briefly, I won't do favors. In other words, if you need some gravel in your driveway, you're not going to get it from me. And for some people to get that and other people not to get it, I don't think that's fair because that's taxpayers' money. So with that being said, I appreciate if you would all support me, that if you have friends in South Union, get behind me, and I guarantee you I will do a great job for the township. Thank you.
I'm for Manellan Township Supervisor. This is all new to me. So my main thing is I'm young, I have young kids, and Manellan is the next South Union, and I want to see some rec centers and the police force get bigger. We split our police force right now with German, and I think we should be full-time, and we have nothing for the kids to do in our township. We have no rec centers, no parks, nothing, so that's my main goal. So
Yeah, I'm talking myself. I did want to talk for a second. I'm running for City Council, City of Uniontown. I don't know if there are any city residents here, but the city is a mess. As the City of Uniontown goes, Main Street goes, so goes Fayette County, which is a shame. But there's 3 of us running on a reform ticket. Bernie Casavage, former mayor, is running as controller. And I'm running for City Council, and Jack Svenik, I believe is how you pronounce it. Never could get all those consonant names. Is running. We get to vote, and Bernie knows where the bodies are buried. We hope we're going to be able to get in there and turn it around. They've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant money. It's a mess. They lost money out of the treasurer's office that was stolen. It's a zoo. So tell your friends to vote Republican. We're unopposed in the primary, but make sure you tell your friends to vote Republican in the fall. Thanks. Here.
I am John Marietta, and I am the hillbilly. And I was informed last night I'm not a farmer. So if all you were at Cattleman's thing last night, somebody pointed out that he was the only farmer on the ticket, but that isn't. I don't think that's quite necessary. I might not be a farmer, but I will be the greatest advocate for agriculture that Fayette County's ever seen, and I work on that right now. There's 2 things I want to get to. One of the things, Mark said something that was really that hit home with me. My grandmother taught me at a very young age that humility leads to integrity, and integrity leads to courage. And I think people don't realize that nowadays, and I think I don't really think they follow that situation. And I probably learned that long before I was wearing long pants. But anyways, I've been a recorder of deeds now for 14 months, 15 months. I've already saved the county over $100,000. If things keep going the way they are, it'll be over $200,000 before the end of this year. So, but anyways, I'm getting cut off. But hey, you all have a great day, and it's always a great day in Fayette County.
Next we have.
Thank you, Skip. When the judge candidates were talking, that was me that was in front of the Commonwealth Court, and I was there because Fayette County stood up for election integrity in the state of Pennsylvania, and I was grilled by a judge in the district attorney general's office, and I testified in front of the judge who issued the court order that we count votes in opposition of the law, and I told her that we were not going to do that. So please elect Maria and Megan, because you never know when we're going to get in trouble again. And that was not our first time that we challenged the state. Fayette County is one of 4 counties to sue the governor over COVID, essential versus non-essential, red, yellow, green, and we won that case as well, and we're very proud to stand up for the people of Fayette County.
Yeah, I was the second vote on that to make sure that we did battle that, and I will tell you, we don't have drop boxes either. So all the stuff that we've actually battled on the election and the mail-in ballots, we are happy to see judges coming on board that probably think the way we do. And that's a wonderful thing, especially to make our elections the right way, to make them fair and honest. And that is something that is highly questionable for me. I've been in question that for a long time. Real quick, I don't know if you know, I am a U.S. Navy veteran. I did serve in 1981 to 85. That's something I haven't said a whole lot of. And the other thing I'm going to say quickly, and real quickly, is when I went into office in 2016, I asked, because of my background with insurances and investments, I asked if we had a health savings account plan. They said no. I said we will. And since that savings account program health savings account program has been in effect, we have saved in the county a sizable amount of money. We're on tune possibly for this year of over $1 million in savings on our health insurance. So that is one thing. We've only had a little bit under 4% increase in our health care consistently. I know you will appreciate that. Right, Rich?
I've been a public servant for 44 years. You talk about Ronald Reagan. I guarded Ronald Reagan. I was there when Ronald Reagan got shot in 1981 with Marine One helicopter unit. We took him to our jail in Quantico, Virginia. I've been a constable for 30 years. I've been a private investigator for 25 years. It's about time our South Union Township has some accountability. I'm the right person to have accountability for a township. They don't want me there. They don't want Doc there. Gotta hold them accountable, because I work there and I see what goes on there. And I will hold them accountable because I will do that. Thank you for your participation.
My name is Greg Palladino. I'm running for Albert Gallatin School Board. I have 2 children in the district, and one does have special needs, so I want to make sure that that program over there is in the right path if I do get to win. So if you could help me out in the AG, I'd appreciate it.
My name is Marcus Donato, and I'm running for a position on Laurel Highlands School Board. I'm a graduate of Laurel Highlands in 1998. I'm a strong parent advocate. I am for the investment in vocational arts programs in the school, also invest into child's mental health. If you give me a vote, I'd much appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Gina White, and I'm running for the school board for the Uniontown Area School District. And sorry, I'm a little nervous. My motto is be the change you want to see, and I'm a strong advocate for the education of our children. And I have 3 kids in the district. I've been attending the school board meetings for the past couple of years. One thing that the pandemic has taught me is that there's a strong overreach in the government in the education of our children. And I want to make sure that Uniontown is at an equal level as any other district. And so sort of the synopsis, and hopefully I can explain more sometime in the future.
I'd like to invite all of you to our monthly meetings. They're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30, just over yonder a little bit, 100 New Salem Drive. We would love to have all of you attend and get some new committeemen in there. It's that way we don't have just a select few making the decisions for the entire county. The more of you that get involved, the more of you that become members, the more representation that we have for the county. Also, a couple events that are going on. We are having a sporting clay shoot on June 3rd. If you'd like to register to be a shooter for that, you can go to our Facebook page or our web page. If you want to be a sponsor or donor, you can contact me or Elliot, Seth, anyone on the executive committee. We are looking for poll workers for the primary and or general. So if you can't do both and you just want to do one, you can contact us. We can get you on the list, and that way when we're starting to organize all that, we already have you down. Also, candidates that are here and candidates that maybe some of you talk to that aren't here, please let us know of any events that you're having, and we can post it on our Facebook page and our web page to get the word out. It doesn't have to be event, it can be event, but it can also be like a commercial, a video, any kind of message you want out, let us know and we will get it out there. I do try to scan social media and find as much as I can, but I can't keep up to date with everybody that's running in every precinct. So get it to us so that we can share it with others. Thank you.
Narrow it down, Dave. So we know Dave is the York County District Attorney. Shortly after high school, he joined the United States Navy and was deployed to the Persian Gulf, where he participated in Operation Desert Strike. He was also deployed to South America and conducted numerous counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean. He received his undergraduate degree in finance from Penn State University in 2002 and graduated from Widner Law School in 2007. He worked as a law clerk for York County Judge Joseph C. Adams, who's now the President Judge of the York County Court of Common Pleas. Dave has been a prosecutor in York County District Attorney's Office since 2009, and prior to being sworn in as a district attorney, served as the Chief Deputy Prosecutor of Litigation under Tom Kearney. In that capacity, Dave supervised major crime cases in the Felony Narcotics Unit. Additionally, Dave served as legal advisor to the District Attorney's Drug Task Force and York County Quick Response Team. Dave is currently leading York County's fight against the heroin epidemic. He, along with Coroner Pam Gay, co-founded the York County Heroin Task Force, instrumental in the expansion of the District Attorney's drug force to fight heroin trade throughout the entirety of York County. Dave is leading Republican 2024 candidate for Attorney General. Dave is a member of the Pennsylvania Bar Association, American Legion, and VFW South Mountain Post 6771, Dillsburg. He lives in Spring Garden Township, York County, with his wife and son. Let's give a warm welcome to Dave.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. And just for the record, in Spring Garden Township, far away, my wife just had a mild heart attack because I haven't officially announced yet. So somewhere far away, she's shaking on a, but we'll work through that. It's fine. We're a team. So it's an honor to be here with you. Just by way of, well, before I go into my background a little bit, so a few months ago, are you guys familiar with CPAC? Have you ever heard of CPAC once a year? So a few months ago, I was on the main stage at CPAC with head of the Border Patrol Union talking about how every state is a border state. Okay, so I want to pause on that because we're going to come back to that, and now we're going to go back in time. So just a little bit about me. I wasn't quite as focused when I was a child. I'm sure I'm not the only person in here that wasn't. And so when I turned 18, I joined the Navy. I went right to the recruiter. Walked up, and this was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and the way it works, there was like a mall, back when we had like indoor malls, right? There was a mall, and every single service branch was right in a row, the recruiters. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked in, and the first one was a Coast Guard, and God bless the Coast Guard, but it just wasn't what I was feeling, right? So God bless the Coast Guard. The next was the Army, absolute true story. Next was the Army, and they were fine. I just wasn't feeling the Army. I went past the Army, Air Force. I didn't fly that much back then. So we passed them, and then the Marines. Yeah. Okay, exactly, right? Marines, right? And so now my father was a Marine, and so he was a Marine prior to becoming a school teacher for his career, and so I walked right past him, right past him. I went to the Navy, and true story, are there any Navy vets in here by chance? Any Navy guys? And so you'll appreciate this, thank you. Well, thank everyone for the service. But this was back before like digital pictures, and so I walked into the recruiter, and he pulled out like an actual book of pictures, right? Like physical pictures. And he's showing me, he's like, join the Navy, this is these places you'll go, it's beautiful, you're gonna go, you're going to play beach volleyball, and I just absolute truth. I mean, sign me up. I signed up. I went right home, told my parents I joined the Navy. What's that? That's what it's like. I went right home, joined, and then within 6 months, Desert Strike. So the beach volleyball never happened, but I will tell you, in all seriousness, I mean, one of the greatest blessings of my life was the fact that I did join the Navy. At the time, like some of you, I always thought I was behind, right? Like I was an E1. And so for those of you that understand the military, like there literally is nothing lower than an E1, okay? So I swabbed decks, I chipped paint, I did all that type of work, and even though at the time I, didn't love that, as years went on, I ended up doing counter narcotics in the Caribbean, where we boarded drug runners, and I made my way through the ranks. I became an E5, and I got out of the Navy. And it was interesting again because during that time period, I always thought I was behind, right? Like the world's passed me by. Here I am in the middle of the ocean. So I came home, and while I was away, my parents moved, right? And so it wasn't because they didn't like me. It was because my mom got a promotion and she got transferred for her job. And so I came home, and like anyone back then, I broke out the newspaper because, again, broke out the newspaper and looked for jobs, UPS. So I went to UPS, and I was going to say I joined UPS. I went and I got a job at UPS, and so I worked there for 8 years. When I was at UPS, I went to college during the day, where I used a GI Bill, which was an unbelievable gift. And then I stayed at UPS, and then I went to law school at night while working at UPS. Now, I tell you that just because, everybody comes, we all came to this room from different places. We had different paths, and that's my path, that's who I am. Those years as an enlisted guy in the Navy and working at UPS, I'm like, man, I'm behind, I'm going to law school a little later in life. It was the greatest gift in the world because I had to learn how to work with people. I had to learn how to work with normal people that suffer, and because life's not easy. And so these are people that struggle to make ends meet, that are, the soul of America. And it was such a blessing for me because when I left UPS after I became a lawyer and I started as a prosecutor, that gift carried through my entire time as a prosecutor. So I've been a prosecutor at the York DA's office for 15 years. When I first started in the DA's office, just like everyone, I started at the bottom. I do a lot of that, right? E1, UPS. And so started at the DA's office. And as I started working through, what I realized quickly was that, and just so you know, because you're not, I assume people have, who's been to York? I hope people have been to York. Okay, so good. All right, so York, for people that don't know, it's a county of around close to 500,000 people. It's directly north of Baltimore, okay? And so I call it ground zero north of Baltimore because that proximity really impacts the crime that we deal with, okay? So when you look across the state, typically it goes Philadelphia, Pitts, Allegheny County, and then it goes York or maybe Montgomery County as the highest amount of criminal cases in the state. So we have around 8,000 criminal cases a year. We have 37 attorneys in the office. We have 19 police departments in the Pennsylvania State Police. And so we do a lot of work with all of our partners to try to make sure we keep our community safe. So as time went on, as a prosecutor, what I realized, my life would change drastically. So I was and I thank you for reading my bio. I was about to walk out the door when you're done because I'm like, I don't know where we're going to go from here. But so I was a homicide prosecutor for many, many years. And so I did jury trials where I tried homicide cases. I tried capital death penalty cases. I was what's called a special assistant United States attorney. And so what we did was we would work with our federal partners. We would identify typically large gangs that were operating in York, and we would arrest them, and then some of them would be federally prosecuted, others state. An example, we had a huge operation, Operation Sunrise, where we arrested 100 members of the Latin Kings gang in one day. And 92 of them were prosecuted in state court, and 8 were prosecuted in federal court. So, but my life really changed, and really what brought me on this path to be here wasn't all the courtroom work. It was the opioid epidemic. When you graduate from law school, and I'm sure the other lawyers in here will tell you, that when you're in law school, they don't give you a class on addiction, okay? There is no class. I actually learned more about addiction working EPS and being in the Navy than I did ever in law school. And so in 2015, the amount of overdose death tripled in York County. So it went from like 60 to around 180 overdose deaths in the course of 1 year. And my world was rocked because, as the families came in one after the other, and I'm talking to these families, I realized that, you know, this is much bigger than just crime and throwing people in prison cells. And so I started working with our county coroner. And the first thing we did was identify what exactly, back then, we didn't know what the actual issue was. And I talk kind of loud, so hopefully, I don't mean to blow the mic out, but, and so we started doing town halls. We did over 200 town halls in York. We did them in churches, in people's basements, we did them in schools, because we wanted to learn, like, what was really happening in our community, okay? And what opened up for us was a life-altering experience, because, and I know that for us in York, the opioid epidemic, it decimated our community. Decimated it. Because not only for the people that died, but for the people that were still alive, that were suffering from addiction. And so we looked around and we're like, man, you know, there's not enough treatment. We're really good at putting people in jail, but there's got to be another way. And so we started a nonprofit called the York Opioid Collaborative. And so through our nonprofit, we ended up raising money to help people get into treatment. We work with parents who have lost their kids. And then that took me down the path into the world of, we also have a mental health crisis, right? I mean, and so our prisons, you know, became really warehouses for people with mental health problems. And so I know in our prison in York County, we probably had around, I would say 70% of every single person that was incarcerated either had a substance abuse issue, okay, or mental health issue, or both. So then we took a deeper dive and we said, all right, well, let's figure out in our community what's going on here. And so we started testing all the DUIs, right? Not just for alcohol, but for everything. And we discovered that over half, and just so you know, we have around 1,600 DUIs a year in York. And over half of the DUIs are drug DUIs, right? They're drug, or drug and alcohol combined. And so as we went down this process, we realized that to keep our community safe, you know, we are really good, again, at putting people in jail, but to keep our community safe and to keep it safe for our children, we have to do everything, okay? We have to, you know, get people treatment when it's appropriate. We have to put people in jail when it's appropriate. We have to do it all. And so through that, really developed my philosophy on criminal justice that exists today, which is accountability and redemption. You've got to have both, okay? You have to have accountability. And I can tell you right now that even for the most, for the person who is suffering the most from addiction, the person with mental health issues, whatever it might be, you still have to have accountability, okay? But it may look differently for some people than others. So accountability can mean a drug treatment court. Accountability can mean community service. For some people, accountability is life in prison. It just depends. Now, on the other end, you have to have redemption. And what I mean by that is 95% of every single person that walks into a jail is coming back out. 95%. Don't ever forget that. So when you see someone go away, 95%, they're coming back. Within 3 years, half of them will go back to prison. And can anyone guess what the number one indicator is of whether or not someone will become reincarcerated? Just random. Anybody? Drugs, well, yeah, that's an important one, but it's joblessness, okay? And so in York, we have tons of manufacturing jobs. And this is where, like your life comes full circle, right? And so I was thinking back to when I was at UPS, and like I worked with people on work release, probation, parole, and they were great employees. Like they came every day, they did their job. And so we started working with the Manufacturers Association. Because like we have all these people coming out of prison for like low-level crimes, and they're committing new crimes within like 2 weeks. And we're like, there's got to be a better way. And so we started working so that these individuals could be employed the minute they get out of prison, okay? And that's called a reentry. And so we have this reentry coalition that's spearheaded by the prosecutors, okay, to help people get jobs when they get out of jail. And it's amazing because we have manufacturers all throughout York. They can't find anyone to work there. It's crazy. That's a whole other topic. We could talk about that for like a month, about how, you know, we can't find people to work. So what we did, that's called our reentry coalition. So when you look at all of this combined, what we were able to do, and it's, in my opinion, stunning, we've been able to decrease crime in York by 40%, okay? And you can directly tie it to all of the work we do with mental health, all the work we do with substance abuse, all the work we do with reentry to help people get jobs. We've saved taxpayers in York County anywhere between $3 to $5 million a year, okay, on saved costs of people that were being incarcerated. Now, at the same time, it is critical to understand that there are bad people that need to go to jail. And so what we try to do is, for the low-level offenders, focus on that. But at the same time, I mean, we have a huge gang problem in York. And so we created this thing called the Group Violence Intervention. So we work with the police, we work with probation, we work with the community, and we do everything we can to attack, it's called precision policing, attack the people that are committing the vast majority of the crimes. Okay? You know, I will tell you right now that as the years have gone on, I mean, I remember I've had homicide trials. I had one young man who I actually convicted, the 17-year-old, of 3 different first-degree murders. Okay? And I'll never forget, you know, there's a place for being a tough prosecutor, and it's our job. But as the years go on, if it doesn't impact you about the cycle, then I think that's a bit of an issue. This young man went to jail, 3 consecutive life sentences. Every time he was sentenced, there was not one person there to see him off. Imagine that. You're 17, life in prison. And so as we worked through that, then we started thinking, hey, you know, we're doing a good job with substance abuse, with mental health. What about the gang issues? And so then we reached out and we started working with the Black Ministers Association, with our Latino groups. We created an organization where the Black ministers work with our police chiefs. That then brought us into COVID, and COVID was, as we all know, COVID was a special experience for all of us in different ways. But during COVID, you know, one of the issues we had in York was where, I don't know, do you guys remember when like it was like a color-coded thing, like you know, you would move into like green and then you'd move into purple, and if you were in purple, then like you could get gas on Wednesdays or something. Like, I don't, do you guys remember that? And so what happened in York was we were at a point where, and as a prosecutor, my job is to uphold the law, period. It's to apply the facts to the law. Okay, we have gone so far astray from the separation of powers, okay, in a lot of different ways. And it's critical to remember that's how I view my job. And so during COVID, we got to a point where it was so out of control that I put a legal memo together outlining why we would not prosecute small businesses for remaining open. Okay? And that, you know, was triggered by, we had a young lady who left her home, and because she was like 17 or 18, she left her home, and she was cited by police for leaving her home during the shutdown. There's a $200 citation, right? And so, you know, that obviously triggered some issues. I got rid of that citation, and then that moved us into the deeper part of COVID, and then ultimately I took that position. You know, all this being said, what I have learned over my years is that it's critical for us to do everything we can to keep our community safe. You cannot leave any stone unturned. You have to work with the community. You've got to work with every single person humanly possible, and when you do that, really, really good things do happen. I think that it is an absolute blessing to do my job every day. I literally thank God for the fact that I'm even, you know, I have, in all candor, and we all have just met tonight, by the way, but, you know, I've far exceeded the world's expectations professionally for my life, okay? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I will never forget, you know, when I first, and just for the record, when I said I wasn't quite focused when I was a kid, I didn't get in trouble, you know, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so that being said, you know, as time's gone on, you know, every day's a gift. And it's up to us what we want to do with it. And I have found a place as a prosecutor. We have a fantastic office. York is a beautiful place. And it's truly an honor to do what I do. And so in the beginning of when I was talking to you, I mentioned CPAC, right? So how did I end up at CPAC? So here's how I ended up at CPAC. So about 5 years ago, I got a call from the people that run CPAC. And they're like, hey, you know, we want to put together a prosecutor advisory panel. And this panel, the purpose of it is to get together and talk about conservative criminal justice policies around the country and sort of share notes. And so I was a little skeptical at first, but I chose to do it. And so once a year, well, actually multiple times a year, we get together. We talk about ways to keep our community safe, and that's how I ended up at CPAC. When you look at fentanyl, I can tell you right now that the fentanyl epidemic is, I don't know, it's like when I was a kid, if you messed up, you had a hangover, right? Okay, now if a child messes up, it could be death for their life. And so we just have a full court press, doing everything we can to not only arrest drug dealers with the supply, but also work on the demand by working with people with addiction. So I think that it's an honor to be here. I know you have a lot of speakers, and so I wanted to, and I know what these meetings are like in York and other places I go to, and you're like, God, who is this guy up here talking to us? So, I wanted to get through my bio. I wanted to tell you about my philosophy on criminal justice. And I wanted to give you an opportunity, if you have any random questions about anything, if that's okay, to see if anyone has any questions. So I'm the DA that serves on the State Sentencing Commission. Okay, so there's one DA that serves on that. That means that I represent the DAs on the commission that determines what our sentencing parameters will be. And so I take a lot of pride in that, and that's something that we do, well, that I do as well. So, and does anyone have any questions at all about crime? But yes, sir.
A few years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the juvenile lifers, and we subsequently started releasing these people back into our society. Under Josh Shapiro, there was chatter that they were going to look for flat sentencing in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because we have a very large quantity of people serving life sentences. What is your take on flat sentencing in the Commonwealth?
So when you say flat sentencing, are you referencing mandatory sentencing?
Correct.
Are you okay? So we would definitely have lost that battle as a result of the United States Supreme Court opinion. I am a believer. So we don't have a lot of mandatory sentences left in Pennsylvania. One of the obviously first-degree murder, second-degree murder. I've done multiple jury trials, unfortunately, where where it was attempted murder of a police officer, and so that's a mandatory 20 to 40 year sentence. There's mandatory sentencing in certain rape cases, child pornography. I think I think that it's all appropriate for all those circumstances, 1,000%. I think that we as a society have to, when there's no punishment, okay, for bad things, and more bad things happen. And I hate to be unscientific about that, but it's just the reality of life. One of the things that we did in York, so last year we had 76, I think it was, non-fatal shootings in York City. Okay, 76 non-fatal shootings. So those are people that got hit and lived. And so what we chose to do was the collective we, in the DA's office, police, our detectives, our drug task force, we just had a zero tolerance policy, and we took resources from other places and we went to town. And so we had, at this point last year, we had, I think it was 9 or 10 first-degree murders in the city of York. And this year, knock on fake wood, we've had 2. We've gone on the offensive, and the reality is, like the society we live in, you have to do that because, and I'll give you an example. So during 50 out of 50 said we want more policing in our neighborhood. And you know why? Because they deserve to have a safe life like everyone else. Those children, the trauma on those kids, okay, is something that we will have to fight for generations to fix by hearing gunshots go off nonstop. So that being said, when you have low-level offenses and the data and the science support treatment to keep them from committing more crimes, fantastic. That's what we want to do. When we have people that commit crimes of violence, they have got to go to jail, period. And so that's my view on that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Just curious, you'd mentioned 160 overdose
Yep.
deaths when you started your coalition. How successful was that? Where are you at now on your overdose?
So last year, I think we had, it was like maybe 81 or 82. We have been, I mean, there's a bunch of different things we did, okay? And one of the things we first discovered was, do you guys remember Scott Wagner that ran for governor? Do you guys remember Scott? Yeah. So Scott's from York, okay? And this is actually before Scott was even a senator. Scott was a very active member of our community, and he became involved in this. And so he worked with the coroner and I and a few other people. And what we did was first of all, Scott's a big data person, and I am as well. Because if you can't show results by data, then, how do you keep doing something, essentially? And so the first thing we did was we took a deep dive into what was driving this. And one of the things that was interesting, we talked to our medical providers, and we found out that over, I think it was like in 2015, there were over 1 million prescription pain pills were prescribed in York County alone, over 1 million. And during that time period, that's when we had kids doing pill parties. That's when kids were like literally popping pills at parties. They had no idea what it was, right? And so the first thing we did was we attacked the pills, okay? Prescription practices changed. That got a lot better. The next thing we did, and this was actually spearheaded by the police department, was they wanted to carry naloxone, okay? So York County's police were the second in the state to carry naloxone. And so to this day, I saw the numbers recently, they have reversed, and this doesn't include multiple reverses for those first responders in here. It was like 2,500 people's lives were saved since then, okay, from naloxone. Now, but the places where we've really made the biggest difference is when someone's arrested, okay? Because what we do, when you go back to accountability and redemption, if you give someone an opportunity to succeed and then give them a reward, good things happen, right? And so we'll arrest someone for a low-level offense that's addicted to opioids. And we will give them opportunities. And we'll say, listen, here's the deal. We'll put you on bail, or we'll put you on supervised bail. You got to start going to treatment. You got to go to work. You got to pay your whatever. You have to pay your restitution. And we're going to monitor you nonstop. Okay? And if you successfully do that, then we'll give you a little bit of a different sentence. Same thing with treatment courts. I'm not sure if you have treatment courts here. You probably do, is my guess. So we amped up. We have 6 treatment courts. Okay? The other thing that we do is we now have inside of our prison, we have actual drug counseling in our prison. Okay? But so basically we've gone through the carrot and stick approach on a lot of these individuals. We've worked with our courts to maximize getting people into treatment. Okay? The reality is there's a lot of people that won't ever accept treatment. It won't happen. But for the people that will, we want to give them an opportunity. And for example, I don't know, do you guys have a veterans treatment court? So we have a veterans treatment court, and it's one of the most amazing, successful things that we've had. I mean, and so we really try to tailor it. Long story short, we've seen a lot of success. We've seen failures, right? Because, as we've addressed paths and it didn't work, we would move to something else. But I will tell you right now, the greatest takeaway from it that we've had, very simply, is the access to treatment. That's what it's been, the access to treatment. Every family, and I know with Narcan, when I first heard of Narcan, I was like, nope, not doing it. Nope. And then as a coroner and I started going to churches and going and talking to people, we realized, you know what, every life is a life. And, I know parents that would Narcan their kids 100 times to be able to have one more day with them on this earth. And so that's the path that York County Police have taken. The other thing real quick with that is the mental health component, okay? So we partnered with WellSpan. WellSpan's our regional healthcare provider. We also have UPMC. And a lot of people with substance abuse disease also have severe mental health issues. And so we are attacking the mental health side of it. And so in York, we have police that will go to a mental health call. Like your typical, I'll give you an example. I was the person that saw it a few months ago where I'm walking in front of the courthouse, and there was a guy in a wheelchair, stood up out of his wheelchair, picked it up, and threw it at someone. All right? So yeah, that absolutely happened. And I'm like, oh, man. So for the police, that's typically a mental health call. So now we have what are called co-responders. They go with the police secure the scene, and then the co-responders will then talk to the person and get them into treatment. Okay? So last year we had 500 calls, and of the 500 calls, we had 200 of them were involuntarily committed. Okay? About 150 of them voluntarily committed themselves, and the remainder is like either just left or it turned out to be nothing. But of those 500 people, and with about 350 going into treatment, we only had 2 that ended up being incarcerated out of 500. Okay? And that's really important because that saves those police officers time. So the police can then turn them over to the person that takes them to mental health treatment, and then the cop can go and get back to work on the serious cases that they're dealing with. And so, that being said, it's been a tremendous success, but it's still a tremendous challenge. And one of the reasons why I'm very seriously considering running for Attorney General is because, with the experience that I've lived in York and being a prosecutor for as long as I have, I can tell you right now that until we get back to accountability, okay, and at the same time, not just accountability, but redemption. When I ran for DA, when I ran for re-election, it was interesting because, and York's a very conservative county. I spoke at CPAC 2 years in a row, and the Democrats wrote me in on the Democrat side of the ballot. And I remember I went and asked their party chair, he ignored me. But then I found out after the fact that it was the people that I have worked with in the city on gun violence that on their own did that. Okay, and so there is a thirst out there for law and order and for community safety. And I feel like it's something that I've toned it down tonight, but I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think that there are conservative criminal justice principles, and we see it in York, where we've decreased crime by 40%, that we really need to get out there and show other people that that's a viable option. So, any other questions? Listen, it was awesome. Thank you guys for your time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. This is beautiful county. I love coming, and so hopefully I see you guys again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Sure. Yeah, Dave really took a lot of time out of his busy schedule. I talked to him about a month ago, and to come over here, drive over this way and see us. So we really appreciate it. It was very informative, and we hope to be supporting you in 2024. We want to appoint Marion Borough Council. There's a Republican candidate, Anthony Jordan, and Kevin Jones wanted to do an introduction for him. Kevin, could you come on up?
I know you folks know me. I'm going to take time to thank Dr. Breakiron. Last year, this time, my father, Dale Jones, died. Lifelong Republican in Fayette County. Back in the time when I turned 18 years old, preparing to vote for Ronald Reagan. My father said, hey, this is about a week later, grabbed the Herald Standard and said, hey, let's go look at our vote. And I said, our vote? We're going to look at our vote? And he said, yeah, we're the only 2 Republicans in Brownsville who's going to be voting for him. And there, sure enough, there sat 2 votes for Ronald Reagan. And you remember those days when the Herald used to publish all that stuff. And there it was me and my dad. And last year, before my father passed away, I told him that Dr. Breakiron told me that I was welcome to come home. And he introduced me to everyone. And I'm not going to cry, because it's not cool. And it was the week my father died. And I filled out the paperwork on paper to return to the Republican Party so that he could see it, so that it wasn't on a computer. As I go roaming around Fayette County, I discovered some interesting things, and I would like to introduce you today to Anthony Jordan, the owner of Safecoat Environmental, located in Dillner, PA. It's an environmental remediation and demolition and excavation company. However, even though it's here in Fayette County, he's working in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina. He's an Army veteran and a 20-year Point Marion resident. He's currently running for the Point Marion Borough Council, and everyone in this room understands that the true Republican wave occurs when every school board has a Republican majority, and every town council has a Republican majority, and every supervisor's position has a Republican majority. And so that there are true Republican majorities in each and every one of those aspects. And so I want him to be able to come up and speak. His daughter had one of the worst history teachers in Abergavenny School District. And so they kind of feel like family at this point. But there's another special thing I discovered in Point Marion. The young woman who is running his campaign and two other Republicans who are running for Point Marion Borough Council, so that there truly can be a transition in power. Stephanie Bosley is a political interviewer working for the campaigns of Jordan and Everly, who's also here, for the Point Marion Borough Council. Stephanie has worked on local and statewide campaigns in New Jersey, Kentucky, and North Carolina, all Republican campaigns. Currently working on a Republican commissioner's campaign in New Jersey. For the past 6 years, the company she works for, Red Harvest, has been interviewing candidates and I apologize, not interviewing candidates, but interviewing the public for each one of these candidates. And across those 6 years, they've had a 100% success rate when they bring, and I wrote this down because I thought it was so interesting. The software they're using provides the candidate and provides the actual candidate staff with real-time call information for all of the results that are occurring in real time, so that that candidate who's running for that office actually gets to see exactly what's going on in real time, not after the fact printed out. This organization, Red Harvest, that she works for, a lifelong Republican, just like Jordan running for council. This is actually occurring right here in Fayette County. And so I'm going to ask Stephanie to stand up so you can actually see what she looks like. So Red Harvest is a Republican 100% organization, and it's very interesting if you get a chance to talk with Stephanie, because she's learning about actual candidates' races in some very important strongholds of the Republican Party in Kentucky, North Carolina, and New Jersey. And they're making real change there. And so she has real insight from talking to real folks. Mr. Jordan, please come up. I promised that I would be less than a minute, and I think I came under
2. Good evening, everybody. You can hear me without the mic? Okay, good. All right. He told me to come up here and speak. I said I had 4 minutes, right? And I started writing. I said, man, 4 minutes is nothing. I can take care of that in a heartbeat. Then I started writing stuff down. I was like, 4 minutes? Maybe one, But as Kevin mentioned, my name is Anthony Jordan, and I am running for council in the Point Marion Borough. Although many people believe that being on a small borough council is most likely the lowest level in the political level, I believe that the decisions of a borough council not only affect that borough, but also affect the county that borough is residing in or is part of. It just bleeds right through it. Point Marion is like many rural small towns all over the country. It began as a booming, hardworking, industry-loving, hardworking families that produced a thriving community and a welcoming, open arms environment. Today, the atmosphere, as you all know, is quite different. Those same hardworking families are now being replaced by transients. The industry has long since passed, leaving no economic growth, resulting in Point Marion becoming a dying community. Point Marion has got to change its culture. It is imperative that the town must adjust to today's times. Whether it be the rails or trails, whether it be Highway 19, Point Marion is one of the first towns that, coming from West Virginia, come into Point Marion. So when they come into Point Marion, they get an instant impression. That impression lasts, believe me. It did 20 years ago when I moved to Point Marion. I was always told, don't go to Point Marion. Don't want to live in Point Marion. Go anywhere. Just don't go live there. Well, 20 years later, I'm still here. Today, people have the impression that Point Marion, honestly, is a trashy, run-down, unsafe place to live. I cannot disagree with that. Houses with tarps on the roof, trash piled up on porches, boarded up houses, structurally unsafe buildings, and the occasional addict playing in the puddle in front of the VFW building. These all lead to Point Marion's lasting bad reputation. When I am elected, I will do everything I can do to work with my fellow council members and improve the town. Point Marion needs new housing, local businesses, and a change in direction. However, Point Marion not only needs the help from Fayette County, it is also going to need the help from the state. It is time for a change in Point Marion, and that time is now. Once again, my name is Anthony Jordan, and I am running for Borough Council.
Thank you, Anthony. The next person I'd like to have come up and address this is Lee England. Lee is running for South Union Township Auditor, and he hasn't all been able to get his message out to us. So, Lee, come on.
Thank you. Last time I got to speak, I only got like a minute when I decided I was going to run. I was in the Marine Corps, so I won't hold the Navy against you there. Oh man, a lot of noise there. Thank you all for showing up. Again, my name is Lee England. I'm running for South Union Township Auditor. I'll tell you real quick things about me. I got 44 years in law enforcement. I've been a public servant for 44 years. We talk about Reagan thing. I met President Reagan. I guarded President Reagan. I was a Marine One helicopter unit in the Marine Corps. Every time you see the president, you see a Marine stand there getting on a white top of a helicopter. That's what I did. I've been at Camp David dozens of times. I talked to Reagan like I'm talking to you. And fortunately, I was with President Carter too. Think about it, I'm going to talk about, everybody talk about change. I'm not going to talk about change. I'm talking about accountability, what that gentleman said. Something our White House forgot about. Our White House forgot about accountability and what we do. Everybody in here who's running is accountable to somebody. You might not think you are, but you are. Especially us guys, we know we're accountable to our wives, no matter what we do. I retired from the Department of Corrections. I retired in 2014. I've been a Pennsylvania State Constable for 30 years. I still am a Pennsylvania State Constable. I've been elected one, and I've been a deputy. I've been elected, and I've been a deputy. I presently work for Jimmy Custer, our sheriff, at the Sheriff Department, a couple of days a week, give me something to do. I get tired of watching Gunsmoke and Bonanza every day, so I figured I had to do something. The thing about me and accountability, what you see is what you get, and I can't be bought, I can't be changed, and I can't be compromised to anybody. I don't care who you are, it's not going to happen. Think about this township. I was a code officer down there for 6 years. And I see what happens down there. They don't want me down there. They don't want Doc down there because we want accountability for what they do down there. They get free gas. Not only do they get a car allowance of $32 a day, the supervisors get free gas. They just get another 10-gallon raise a week. They get 30 gallons a week of free untaxed gas. For their wives, for their kids. You know what? South Union Township, you're paying for it. But if I get down there, it's called accountability. I'm not going to let that happen. If I got to go to Channel 4 News, I will go to it. But that's what I want to bring to the table. I want to bring accountability because that's something we don't have. This township is a great township. I lived there all my life, off and on all my life. I have 2 grown kids. I got 2 grandkids. I raised in this country. I want to make this township to be a better place to be. You know, like I said, I swore to protect the Constitution for 44 years against all foreign and domestic people or countries. And I'm still right here as I stand. I will protect this country. I would protect our township if I have the chance to do that on May 16th. I humbly ask you for your support, and please go out and vote. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much.
At this time, I would like to ask Michelle Mowry maybe to give us a little update on the Republican Committee. Michelle's the chair of the our local Republican Committee.
Hello, everyone. I'd just like to let you know that we have a new writing candidate for voluntary office. Her name is Amber Finello. And since she is a write-in, we need support to get her actually, to the general. So she's going to have stamps made with her name on it, and if you are willing to work the polls and hand those out to people as they walk in to vote, we would greatly appreciate it. She has some people to help her, but she needs more. I'm hoping she will be at our next monthly meeting on the 11th. I can't guarantee that, depending on her work schedule, but she's going to try to be there. I can tell you that she's a single mom of, forget how many little girls. I think 3, but don't hold me to that. And she's a waitress in Connellsville. So I met her, I talked with her. She seems to have a strong spirit. She's tired of the way our country's going, and she wants to get involved and make a difference. So hopefully she'll come and you guys can meet her. And if you're willing to help her out with handing out stampers, I'll be here at the end of this meeting. You can let me know, or you can call me sometime. And also, another big announcement, for as long as I can remember, our meetings, monthly meetings, have been at the mental health building. That's going to end in June. Our last meeting there will be in June. And starting in July, our meetings will be at the South Collinsville Fire Hall. We did that for 2 reasons. One, we were outgrowing the health building. We were crammed in there. That's a good thing. And if you were at one of the recent meetings, it was very hot in there. So we needed more space. Plus, we were paying, for as much as we used that office and that space, we were paying way too much for what it was. So, being the conservatives that we are, we want to save those pennies. So the South Collinsville Fire Hall will really help us do that. Our next thing, I've mentioned it before, is our clay shooting event on June 3rd. We're getting down to the wire here. If you happen to want to be a sponsor, please let me know ASAP, because we do have to get those signs ordered. I think Monday or Tuesday she wants as many as she can get in. She can take a couple late ones, but not too many. And also, if you have a team that wants to register, or maybe you yourself want to register but you don't have a team, we can pair you up with somebody. And again, please don't wait to the last minute for that. I know a lot of you have said you're going to register, but you haven't yet, because we need to get those numbers into the caterer. So if you're going to, please let us know. And again, I'll be here after the meeting if you'd like to talk. You can also go to our Facebook page or our webpage. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. The next person I'd like to have speak is our state rep is here, Charity Grim-Krupa, and I'd like to see if she wants to give us an update.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I got back from Harrisburg last night. There's lots of interesting things going on. The learning curve is steep, but I think the honeymoon phase is kind of worn down for me. If it's not on your radar, HB 300 is a House bill that is going to come up for a vote probably on Monday. It is a Democrat-sponsored bill that makes not just discrimination illegal, but perceived discrimination in the language of the bill, which that's very hard to define. And as the criminal defense attorneys in here will say, you can't criminalize perceived activity. But where it really becomes an issue is that in addition to your typical categories that are protected classes for discrimination, and I don't want to get in a legal issue, conference or seminar, but you've got your race and your gender and different things that are protected classes. This expands it and includes even gender identity. So you've got an issue that For example, if you're a surgeon and you don't believe it's appropriate, whether it's based on your faith or your medical beliefs as a surgeon, that it's appropriate to do a gender reassignment surgery on a minor, they could accuse you of violating this House bill. If you were a parent that doesn't think it's appropriate for a biological boy to be on your girls' soccer team, or to go to the locker room with your daughter, this bill could be used to criminalize opposition to that. So your state representative, if you're from my district, is voting no on that bill. I typically wouldn't speak for Ryan Warner, but I am confident that he also will be voting no on this bill. I look for every Republican in the room to vote no on it. I'm hopeful that some of the Ds that are in maybe purple districts will have a hard time justifying a yes vote. So our majority numbers in the House right now are split by one vote. So hopefully we have some sane Democrat that is going to vote no on that bill. But that's the really controversial bill that's come up since I've been there, but we're behind schedule because of the way things have went down this particular legislative session. A couple of things that are going on locally from my office that I want to make you guys aware of is on May 17th, it's a Wednesday for any veterans. I am personally hosting a veterans breakfast. It's going to be at AmVets in Hopwood, so if you're a veteran, please come out. We just to try to keep our numbers under control. It's a veteran plus one guest, and we're asking for registration, and then that way we're planning on presenting a certificate and a small gift. So please, we want as much. We'd be happy to have you. Veterans are near and dear to my heart. I was born outside of just outside of Fort Bragg when my dad was learning how to jump out of airplanes. So I've got a brother in the Airborne Ranger and a brother that's in the Marine Corps. So I come covering all the branches, almost all the branches. And then we're also having a Farmers Appreciation Breakfast, and Rep. Warner and I are both co-hosting that. That's May 13th, a Saturday at the Fiddler's Building, and anybody can come to that. It is a completely free event, so you don't have to be a farmer. The idea is to show our farmers some love, and we hope that that's a well-attended event and to become an annual event. So I'm also a farm girl, so I love my farmers too. I hope you guys do too. They feed us all the time. I think that's it. Does anybody have any particular questions for me about any legislation that's coming up through the House right now? Just so everybody knows, my office is available from 9 to 5 locally. Things that you might not even be aware of that your local office could do is if you're having unemployment issues, or you know somebody that's having problems with their unemployment compensation, we do a lot of field calls for that. If anybody's applying for a rent rebate, particularly if you have an elderly family member or somebody that you know that's low income, that's paying rent, or may qualify for a tax rebate, my staff can help out with those forms, getting death certificates and birth certificates. So there's two hats, and I've talked about this before. There's the district side where we're doing all those constituent services. My staff has been trained that if you have an issue, call us. We may not be the office that has the specific answer, but we can do research. We have connections. We can reach out and hopefully make a connection that if we can't individually help you, that we can get you in touch with somebody that can. So we don't ever want to turn anybody away. So thank you for your time.
At this time, most of our candidates have had the opportunity at the last 3 meetings to speak in front of our group. But I just want to make sure, is there anybody here tonight that is running for a county office or any position, school district, anything, that has not had a chance or opportunity to come up and say something? Anybody? We pretty much covered it. Then what we would like to do is...
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, folks, most of you have heard from me already, but if you don't know me, my name is Mike Auble. I joined the Army when I was 18 years old. I was active duty for 7 years as a military policeman. I retired last June with over 20 years of service from the reserves. Now, I've been in law enforcement. I was a correctional officer after I left active duty. I served in Afghanistan on active duty. I went to law school at Duquesne University School of Law, and I've been a practicing attorney in this county since 2016. I have a couple of issues that are very near and dear to me. I am a strong Second Amendment supporter. Not only am I a supporter, I have defended the Second Amendment in this very county, in court. I am somebody who believes in fiscal responsibility, how we spend our money in this county. The drug problems that we have in this county is something that's very near and dear to my heart as well. As some of you know, I have 7 children in my house. In addition to my 3 biological children, I have 2 nieces and 2 nephews from the ages of 14 all the way down to 12 weeks that are living in my house that we've taken in. And it's something, again, it's very important to me. When there was an issue, my family, my wife and I were willing to step in and take care of them, and that's something that I want to do for this county. We need a change here. I am that change. I've been preparing for this my whole adult life. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask, is Rich Bauer present? Rich, will you come up? Our district attorney, Rich Bauer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rich Bauer. I'm the District Attorney of Fayette County. I have been a practicing attorney for 42 years. I've been an assistant district attorney for approximately 9 years. I've been a district attorney for 7.5 years. During that period of time, as the district attorney, we have had 15,000 convictions. We have also had over 320 trials with verdicts of guilty. I personally have tried a first-degree murder convictions. I've had 11 first-degree murder convictions as an assistant district attorney and as a district attorney. I've also gotten second-degree murder convictions. I've got a few third-degree murder convictions. We've taken a very hard line in regard to the drug activity. Right now, we have also got a grand jury going on, our second grand jury. I can't tell you what we're investigating, but we've already filed charges with presentments for a murder. We have an announcement that's coming out tomorrow, and we have another announcement next week that's regarding our grand jury. We have changed the atmosphere in Fayette County. We have had a 40% reduction in gun violence in Fayette County in the last 2 years. We have also had, in regard to Narcan's been used ever since it came out. Now, am I exceeding my time?
I'm sorry.
There, that's okay.
There is a Uniontown School District person here, Gina White. Yeah, would you come up, please? Gina is running for school board for Uniontown School District, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Gina White, and I'm running for the school board for the Uniontown Area School District. I have 3 kids that are in the district, 2 at the elementary level, 1 at the middle school level, so I have a huge invested interest of why I want this position. But more than anything, I feel like the direction of our education is going in the totally wrong way. So I know that it's a long-term goal, but the fight starts at the board, being a board member, and I'm hoping to gain support there with the parents to move on. But in the short term, I would like to bridge the gap of communication between the parents, the students, the administration, and the teachers, because I think that there's a large amount of mistrust between those groups, and I want to be the person that people come to with issues that they have, knowing that I care, and I will at least try to get a resolution for those problems, but I can't guarantee to solve all the problems, but I'll at least try. So that's my fight. I hope that more people will join in supporting me. I'm at the lowest of the totem pole at this point because I had the least amount of people that knew me in the district, but since this campaign and all of this support and momentum I've been gaining, it's given me an incredible amount of confidence going into the election. So I hope that that momentum continues and I'll have a chance to serve the constituents of Uniontown.
Next, for Coroner's Office, John Teravecchia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the past 20-plus years, I've been a licensed funeral director. In 2008, I started working at the Fayette County Coroner's Office. In 2012, I became certified to be your next Fayette County Coroner. I think my time and dedication to that office speaks volumes of taking it in the right direction. And I know the time and commitment that is required to hold that position. Any support that I can get from anyone, I truly appreciate it. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Warren. Mr. Bob Baker, I saw him here. Bob, come on up. He's also running for
Good evening, guys. How many elected officials want to add more time and be two places at once in this last 6 months? You know, I just wish we could just add more to this election. We have 19 more days till Election Day. It's been quite a journey, to say the least. But it's been pleasurable, and I've met so many people within our county, and I got to hear a lot of stories, and I'm going to be able to make a lot of changes. So I'm really excited to get this opportunity to serve as your next county coroner. If anybody, I had the opportunity today also to go on Phil and Nick's show today on WMBS. And so I would encourage you guys to all look and watch the video. You'll hear a lot more about me. It was a 45-minute show, and my family as well. So I really, truly appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, any support that you guys would give. And I look forward to serving as your next county coroner. Good luck to all you guys, all the candidates. Good luck. Thanks.
Next, I'd like to ask Rob Rhodes. He's running for controller.
Thank you, Doc. Dave, I know you said you haven't announced yet. I'm looking forward to hearing it. As a Marine, I'm going to tell you, you can do this. As our primary season draws to a close here, we have some really good candidates at every level, from school boards, township supervisors, county row offices, and thinking that next month when we reconvene here, we're going to have a better, clear idea of what we're going to have to vote for moving forward. I think it's time for us to start unifying and working together. I know that's tough right now because we have good candidates. We have a lot of tough decisions. I just ask that you all use your mind that the good Lord gave you and vote your conscience and get the right people win, guys. God bless everybody. Have a good night.
Next, interesting guy I've had a lot of nice conversations with. He is running for clerk of courts, Harry Cochran.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm a candidate for clerk of courts. I'm not going to elaborate a lot on this because I was lucky I don't have an opponent in the primary, but we're going to need a lot of help in the fall. This is tough, as Mr. Rhodes said. We have friends running here and they're opposed. It's tough, but I know that I want to see a Republican sweep in this county. I personally want to see 2 Republican commissioners, and I want to see Gino Gallo as the minority commissioner. I want to get rid of Vince Faciti. He's been in there 32 years. Only once another 4-year terms have done a damn thing for this county. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Next is Ken Bork here. Ken, come on up. Ken is running for Register of Wills.
Thank you. My name is Ken Bork. I'm running for Register of Wills. I'm running on term limits. I'm not here to make a career out of Fayette County. Fayette County has had enough politicians make a career out of Fayette County. I'm going to run 2 terms. I'm either moving up or moving out. Thank you. Ken Bork, vote for me.
Our next candidates would be for our judges of the Court of Common Pleas. Melinda Delarose.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. You've all heard from me before, so I just want to give a little update. I've recently felt like I've taken some criticism for my job as an assistant district attorney. And then last Friday, I received an email from the Pennsylvania State Troopers Association, the statewide association. Previously, I am endorsed by our local Troop B, local FOP 47, but I am also endorsed by the entire Pennsylvania State Police Troopers Association. So that gave me some validation and made me feel like the last 8 years that I've spent, or 7 years that I've spent in the district attorney's office, really is something to be proud of. And to have the support of our law enforcement means a great deal to me. So I'd appreciate any support that you can give me on May 16th, and I appreciate you here tonight. And also, I am recognized by LifePAC as a pro-life candidate. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Mark Mahalat, who is also a candidate for judge of the Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, one of the first things I'm going to tell you is I've spent 23 years getting ready to be a judge here in Fayette County. I don't need to sit here and spew rhetoric to you. I want to tell you, yeah, I'm pro-life, I'm a Catholic. Take that as you can see it. But I can't, and I shouldn't sit here and tell you what I'm going to do or how that should have no bearing on what I would do in a particular case. The law says what the law says. If the law says you can't do something, as a judge, you can't let people do it. Am I pro-gun? Love Second Amendment. I think everybody, the law says, as the law, everybody can have guns. Everybody can do what they need, concealed carry, things of that nature. But if the law says you did something wrong with a gun, I'm going to follow it. If the law says it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. I'll dismiss a case. Spent time as a prosecutor, spent time as a defense attorney, spent time as a civil practitioner. I have spent my entire career for the past 23 years preparing for this moment. And I will be, and I do believe I'm the most experienced, most qualified, regardless of endorsements. I'm endorsed by the police, FOP Lodge 87, state constables endorse me. Endorsements, it's who's the most qualified, who's the most experienced, and I have that. And I put the time in, and I ask for your support, and I ask for your votes. Thank you very much.
At this time, are there any other candidates for school board? Because I know there's quite a few. Are there any here that haven't spoke that wanted to? Huh? Okay. Next, I would like to ask our county commissioners. First, I'd like to ask: is Dawn Capalco? She's here, right? Are you going to say something for Dawn tonight?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am here on behalf of John Marietta. He sends his apologies. He's with family on a long-awaited holiday, so he asked me to speak this evening. As John would say, I'll tell you what, it's been a ride, but it's been so good meeting all of you around Fayette County. I didn't plan to run for Fayette County Commissioner, but after so much encouragement and 52 signatures from the Reagan Republicans, I decided to give it a shot. This county is a terrific place, and we must do a better job at managing our taxpayers' money. It's important to build a prosperous future for our children, grandchildren, seniors, and veterans. And this can happen right here in our backyard, and with support, I will help shape those futures. It's not about me, it never has been, and it never will be. I will do my best to make our government more efficient and more effective. As many of you know, John hosts weekly programs on WMBS, and he always closes each show with this: While on this road called life, you have to take the good with the bad, smile when you're sad, love what you got, and remember what you had. Always forgive, but never forget. Learn from your mistakes. Things go wrong, but just remember the ride goes on. In May, I am hoping to be a part of Fayette County's ride into a promising future that is built on the people who make this county so great. Once again, thank you all for your support. God bless you, and God bless Fayette County.
County Commissioner Scott Dunn.
It's going to be hard to get this in a minute. Charity, I'll be doing a farmers roundtable on Not to Be Outdone by You. My 6th farmers roundtable will be May 23rd, 6:30 at the Fiddler's Building. The guest will be the Secretary of Agriculture from the state, Russell Redding. I will be on WMBS tomorrow at 2:15 if you want to join in. I was on a pharmacy podcast with Todd Uri to talk about Fayette County's response to opioids. Please check out my Facebook page. You can get to there from there. Lee England guarded, where you at, Lee? Lee England guarded Reagan. Now he guards me at the Fayette County Courthouse. On day 1, I walked into the courthouse and I said, I'm making friends with the people with the guns, and I went to see Lee. Mr. Jordan, there is hope after being on the Borough Council. My last job before this job, I was the president of the Dunbar Borough Council. There is hope. We are remaking our little town. I'm very proud of that. My little town in Dunbar has a poverty rate of 11%, which is much lower than the rest of Fayette County. And if I could tell one quick story for the Navy, my father had a draft status of 2A, which meant he did not have to be drafted. He was not subject to be drafted in World War II. He enlisted then. And enlisted into the United States Navy. And after he passed, we had his letter home, and to his letter to his mom, and his first sentence was, send more cigars. When you send cigars, I'm the most popular guy in the barracks. So, thank you. I appreciate your support on May 16th.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Now I'd like to hear from our other county commissioner, David Lord. Dave.
Thank you, Chip. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you here this evening. Real quick, I have to talk fast. Definitely, May 5th is our ribbon cutting for the new jail, which I started the campaign on a while back, and campaigned 2 times, winning in 2015 and then 2019 on building a new jail, and it's happening. Second is that I'm also endorsed by LifePack, and have been endorsed by LifePack every time that I've run. And anyone who knows my history, I've been around for a long time. 1995 was the first time, and I've been actually endorsed by LifePack every time. So they know me well. It's exciting for me to see how many candidates are out here, because when I started down this road, there was no competition in any category. It was always on the Democrat side, and it's now flipped to the Republican side. And that's a great thing to take place, because we're going to get good people in office. For over the years, we've not had, in my opinion, the best, but now we are getting good people. So thank you all for running, and also your support on May 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott, or Dave, sorry, Dave. Next, I'd like to have South Union Township Supervisor candidate Garrett Breaker.
I probably don't need that. Anyway, first of all, I want you to all definitely support Lee England for auditor. I think if he and I can get into office, we are, as Lee said, bring accountability and honesty. I think the regime has been there too long. They're just coasting, and even though South Union hasn't raised taxes, there's things that need to be changed. We need new leadership. A lot of people didn't even understand the difference between a supervisor and a roadmaster. All 3 of our supervisors are roadmasters. One of the things that a roadmaster is supposed to do is is to actually be out with the crew and watch over them. When's the last time you ever saw that in South Union? Think about it. That's an extra 65 grand in it thereabout. So if you're not doing the job, why are you getting that extra money? The other thing is my opponent is doing a major trying to write-in candidate on the Republican side. He's a Democrat, but he's already put out 2 mailers this week asking the South Union residents to write his name in on the Republican ticket. We need to stick together and as Republicans and get this over with so I can go at him in the fall. So don't think just because I don't have an opponent we don't need help. If you don't live in South Union and you have friends in South Union, I ask that you call them and tell them to please give me their support. The last thing is, this election, it's in God's hands. God's the one who's going to name the winner. I'll take it or leave it according to what God's plan has for me. So thank you all for listening to me, and hopefully I have your support.
Thank you, Dr. Gary Breakern. Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. As your chairman, I think, I know you've all been working hard.